Hey, good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us here for the weekly webinar. We apologize, we're a couple of minutes behind here. Our internet just seemed to almost grind to a halt there, right whereas we were getting ready to try to start this. So, but I think we've got it started now, and we've got a ton of stuff we want to cover.
Yeah, in fact, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be going through and talking about investor title searches and kind of go through and review what do we need to look for and actually go through and look at and do an investor title search.
Yeah, but before we do that, so we have several 3-day events that are coming up here. We've got a 3-day event that's coming up here this month in California, in the LA area. That's going to be the 23rd through the 25th of September. So if you want to attend that, be sure to get in contact here with us. I think you know that we've got a lot of people register for it, but there's still some openings if we have students that want to attend.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're interested in attending, let us know. We're going to be in Baltimore, Maryland area, kind of the DC area in October 7th through 9th, Miami, Florida, and then Houston, Texas. So if you'd like to attend, it's only $299 for members. It's also going to come with a 6-month membership to the website, so you can't beat that. So if you're interested in attending, let us know. We can get you the details. You're going to go onto the website right now and fill out your information and sign up that way as well. So
yeah. Okay. So yeah, we're going to be covering investor title searches tonight, and really where this plays out here in the process here of investing, and it's a part of the research that we do, and what we mean by that is I guess we probably. So if we were to break down the investing cycle to its most simple forms, we break it down into finding, researching, buying, and selling. And something like an investor title search is part of the research that we perform. In fact, it's one of the stages of research that we perform.
Yeah, we've done other trainings before where we go through and talk about stage 1 of due diligence, and that's really the 6 days of basic property research. And so if you're interested in going through that, we have some of the replays, I think, from a couple of months ago where we went through those 6 steps. But really what we want to talk about tonight is stage 2. It's kind of a question, the basic research. A lot of people know how to do that, go through and research the assessor records, or check out the online maps, and check out the market value. Today what we want to talk about is how do we go through and research and do what is essentially a title search, or if we can't, when is it right to have a title search?
Yeah, and what exactly is a title search? What is it that we're paying for? What are some of the cost differences? So title searches are, once we've done the basic research on the property, going through those 6 steps where we are, identifying what the property is, where it is, we're making sure it doesn't have any major red flags, so it's accessible, appears to be usable, it has value. Once it checks all of those boxes, then we need to start digging into the property to see if there might be something else wrong with it. Like, for instance, if it could have additional liens against the property. And a title search is one of the ways that we could determine that.
Yeah, exactly. So when it comes to having a title search done, we can either have a professional title search where, we're going to hire a title company. They're going to go ahead and do a title search. Maybe it's an online title company, or maybe a local title company, or we're going to do it on our own. We're going to try researching those records, see if we can find out the information where we can make our own decision so that we don't have to pay the expense of having a professional title search.
Yeah, and obviously there's benefits and drawbacks for each one of them. I mean, considering we haven't bought the property yet, you don't necessarily want to invest money into something that you may or may not win. So investor title searches are good options on properties, that we're trying to do research on, but don't necessarily have. But at times, though, we may not be able to do investor title searches. They're not always available to us. And so there are times when professional title search is your only option.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about professional title searches. Really what they are is the complete history of the property. So they're going to include copies of past deeds, transfers, ownership, chain of title. But what we're most concerned about is the list of governmental liens or any type of liens that could be listed against the property. Because the judicial foreclosure in most cases is going to eliminate mortgages, loans, judgments. The only thing that can stick in a lot of states is going to be something like another governmental lien. And so that's the part that we're most interested in as a tax deed investor before we buy.
Yeah. Essentially, we don't have to worry about any other liens except for those types of liens because they're the only ones that are going to survive the foreclosure process. But part of what you're paying for when you get a professional title search done, though, is for them to do all of this research and to put it together in a report that's easier to consume. It'll have a cover like this, that basically breaks down some of the information and makes it a little bit easier. So, but for most of the time, a complete title report like this is overkill, sort of, for our purposes. Now, unless if we're planning to take a property through quiet title, then we're going to have to get a professional title search done anyway. But if we're still in the process of trying to figure out what to buy, then it's going to be overkill.
Yeah, well, and let's talk a little bit more about title searches and why they're done. And really, it's done because for a couple reasons. The most common reason is a loan or a mortgage company, a bank is going to require that the property have title insurance before issuing a loan on the property. Kind of like somebody who buys a car, they're going to, somebody who buys a car and gets a loan on a car, the lender's going to want insurance on that car in case it gets, in a wreck. The loan is provided. There's insurance to cover that. It's kind of the same thing with a title
insurance.
Yeah, title insurance with the property.
Yeah, in fact, lenders want to be sure that when they go to borrow the money, that there isn't something wrong with the title. That there isn't somehow going to be money that's owed, or that there isn't some kind of encumbrance there. And so it's normal in normal real estate transactions for the parties to involve title insurance. Title insurance is usually part of every transaction. And what the title insurance company does is they have title searchers that can go through and research properties and look for possible problems or errors that that are there that could cost money. But if they go through property records and they don't find any of those errors, then they can insure the transaction basically. And what that means, if something did come up, then the title insurance company would be the ones responsible for paying for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when it comes to title searches, they can be as cheap as $50 to $100 in some cases, up to really $300 there isn't right. Really $500 would probably be your maximum. But when it comes to a title search, what we're most concerned about as a tax sale investor is what's called a lien report or a lien search. And that's going to be on the cheaper end side of that, because if we're spending $350, $400, really they're going to be pulling up a title report that's going to go back 30 or 40 years and have all that information. That might be beneficial to us after we buy the property, but it's not beneficial to us before the property, at least not the extra cost. I mean, if we could buy them for 10 bucks, then sure, but that's going to be a lot of extra cost. So if we are going to get a professional title search, we're going to try to get what's called a lien report. That's going to usually be $100, maybe $150. It's going to be cheaper, and then that'll give us any type of liens or judgments. And what we're really looking for is some type of governmental lien that could stick to the property.
Yeah, which, by the way, one thing that's interesting is while we're talking about title insurance companies and title insurance, that's the whole problem that we run into with tax deed properties when it comes to selling them, is title insurance generally requires a warranty deed. So title insurance companies require a warranty deed in order to provide title insurance. And so if we're trying to sell a tax deed in a normal real estate transaction, the problem is the title insurance company is going to look at it and suddenly say, this isn't insurable. And so they won't be able to offer the insurance. And that's where a deal might fall apart if you don't understand, what the tax deed is. But basically when we take a tax deed through a quiet title action, what we're doing is making it eligible for title insurance again. So we're getting it a warranty deed again so that it can be sold just like any other property, with the title insurance.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's, why it's important to research is so that we can make sure that we avoid any type of serious mistakes. Now with investor title search, this is where we're able to do the research ourselves. So we're able to research the past owner's name, we're able to research the court or clerk's records, the recorder's records, and find out if there's anything that we need to be worried about on the property. Now we're not able to do this everywhere. Now, if we were in person, we could do it everywhere because some can't, this is essentially public records, but what isn't required by the county is to make those records available online. So with that, unless the county has those records online, we're gonna have to be there in person. And so that will be one decision in deciding, are we going to be getting a professional title search?
Are we able, are we even able to do it, an investor title search, or is that outside of, is outside of what's possible with the records that are available to us? A good question here from Kirby is, he said, is it less likely to need a title search on land? And the answer on that would be probably yes, most of the time, although
we're going to still do title searches on any of them. In the case of cheaper type land, then it's going to be a matter of making a decision. So if we're spending $500 on a lot that's worth $600,000, $6,000 on over the counter list, or $5,000 on the over the counter list, we're probably not going to spend, a couple $100 to get a title report. But there is things that we're going to talk about here to where if we can't get that information, we're going to contact the city and see if there's anything, because usually it's going to be a city type lien that's going to attach to the property.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of interesting because in some ways, something like a home, is going to be more likely to, to be sold with a warranty deed for sure, unless the land has more value. But something like a piece of land, though, is more likely to have one of the types of liens against it that we're going to be looking for, like a government issued lien, like a nuisance lien. It's more likely to find that on a piece of land than it is necessarily sometimes on homes. Although homes can also have them because they have land with them as well. So yeah, really, we basically will try to do investor title searches all the time. If we're looking at properties that we can buy, the question is if we can't find that information, are we going to we're going to have to get it done professionally in order to get it. It's basically, the only way that we can get it.
Yeah. So really, and more counties are adding their information online, which is making it easier and easier to perform the searches. And once you get to the right place, we're going to go through and explain how to do it. Really, there's a matter of 6 steps that we're going to go through. We're going to go through each one of these 6 steps. And this is really kind of what we're going to be doing to research the title and research the property.
Yeah. So the steps are designed to, oh, by the way, so are we going to conduct the title search before or after we buy, the property? Well, definitely, we want to try to find this information before we buy it. But if we're planning on taking it through quiet title, we may end up having to take it, get a title report done on it anyway at some point if we buy it.
Yeah, well, this is all going to be done pre-auction. This is helping us determine if we're going to buy it or not. So once we've gone through the first 6 steps in identifying the property and make sure that it's something we're interested in, then we're going to do the final 6 steps before actually buying the property. And step 1 is actually very similar to the first step in the first stage of due diligence, where we're going to go back to those county records, because we're going to use this information, or this is many times where we're going to find the information to help us do the additional other 6 steps that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, so the first thing we need to do is essentially get back to the county assessment record or the assessor's record on the property. So, with this property, is this one we were looking at last week?
Yeah, this is just an example, and we're just going to use it as a little bit of an example. This is a property that were picked up, but what we could do is go ahead and click on that parcel ID number, which is going to pull up the county record information.
Yeah, which is that's our step 1 point, is getting here, because this is where we're going to be able to access, and get to the rest of the information.
Yeah, well, we can see right up there in the top left-hand corner, the owner of record. And there's a sole owner, that's Cynthia Wood. And that's the information that's important for us. That's the reason we came to the county record, is because we're going to use that name to research her name in the court records or the recorder's records to see if there's any governmental things or anything that we need to be worried about. Also within the county assessor records, many times they're going to have the deed. In fact, we'll show an example of it right here, but that's going to be the next step. Once we've identified the assessor's records, we're looking for that owner of record, and then we're going to find the deed because we want to match up that name, that owner, to the person that's on the deed.
Yeah, and so we need to be able to look at the property deed in order to be able to do that. And the property deeds oftentimes can be linked directly to property records in the assessor's office now, but if not, there's a specific office within the county that will handle these. They're often called the county recorder or the land records or official records office, and they're a place where those records are stored. But this is where a lot of times where we can find the records is on the assessment record of the property. We can see a sales history, and a lot of times we'll have links like this that will take us directly to the deed.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we were to click on that, we would go ahead and pull up the deed. And a lot of counties are automatically linking their sales records to the deed so that we can pull out pretty quickly. If not, like Shade said, we can go to the recorder's office or the official records office and pull up the property that way. And many times they'll have a book and page number, and we can research it using the book and page number. But here we can see, the last sales. We would go ahead and click on those because what we're looking for is we're looking to see and make sure, first of all, that the owner's name is similar or it's the same as the owner, that we see on the assessor record. So the deed and the assessor record match up. But then we're also going to look and see if it's a warranty deed or if it's some other type of deed like a quitclaim deed.
Yeah, because basically what we need to do research to is back to the last time that it had a warranty deed. So if we pull up the first deed and it's it turns out to be a warranty deed, then that's great. It means that the last time the property transaction occurred was with a warranty deed. So we only need to research the time since then.
Yeah, absolutely. And if as we've got into it, it was a quitclaim deed, then we would go back and research until we got a warranty deed. But each deed is going to include the buyer and the seller. So we're going to see, okay, who is the current owner of it? In this case, it would be Cynthia. And we can also see who the last owner was, which in this case, we can see it was Arthur Baker. So we know, okay, this property was sold to Cynthia, who essentially is getting foreclosed on now. Then it was also before that owned by Arthur Baker, but it was a warranty deed. So if this wasn't a warranty deed, which means at that time the county had doesn't believe that there's any issues with the title, then we wouldn't have to go back and search Arthur Baker. But if this was a quitclaim deed, then we're going to go need to search Arthur Baker because it's possible that liens could survive between both, Cynthia and Arthur.
Yeah. Essentially, because the property, because it didn't have a warranty deed with those transactions, we basically don't know. We don't know unless we go into it and research to see if anything else, would be there. But if we do go back and see a warranty deed, we can be confident that there's nothing going on there with the property. And so that's what we would call a simple ownership history. Is if you're looking at it and it doesn't have very many transactions on it, or if the last time that it had a transaction, it had a warranty deed. If it's been changed hands 5 times with quitclaim deeds, that's a more complicated ownership history, and it complicates things when it comes to clearing the title.
Yeah, well, and looking in here, we also can verify some additional information. You can see the parcel identification number. We can make sure that that's right. We can also look at this particular property and we can see that Cynthia Wood actually lives in Georgia, P.O. Box 429 Moreland. So, with this particular property, we're looking at an out-of-state investor or an out-of-state buyer, which makes sense because it is a piece of land, that makes more sense than somebody's single family home.
Yeah, but still an out-of-state buyer, which could have been one of the things that led to it being foreclosed on.
Yeah, also within the deed is going to be any type of exhibits, and in this case, we can see the legal description but also the property easement. As we were looking at that piece of land, it looked like that there was a road, and here is the easement that allows access to that property through that private road.
Yeah, so if you were looking at the property, you know, you would have to be concerned, you know, first about making sure that it's accessible. And that's basically what this easement does, you know, so this easement gives them, you know, it's an access easement. So it's how you can make sure that you've got access to the road, you know, from the property, and it's included in the deed. So, you know, it's something that's official there.
Well, and if you guys remember, we've done, you know, different webinars on risk, and we talk about easements and which easements are spine easements, you know, aren't going to affect the value, or in this case, you know, affect the value, increases it because it gives you access. Or there can be easements where that's really what the property is. So if we were looking at that, at this particular deed, and under that easement, it was talking about,
Oh, I was going to go back to the picture of it.
no, under the easement, it was talking about that this is a you know, a water basin or has some type of drainage, you know, talk within that easement. Well, suddenly that's going to be a major red flag, because that may, you know, what looks like a lot may just be being used as some type of water basin. And so, you know, that would suddenly affect the property value and wouldn't be worth buying at all.
Yeah, but that's something we can always check, and it's worth checking by pulling up the deeds. But you can see how things like the type of deed that was used last is something that we think about and consider, because it basically is going to determine how much research we need to do. You know, when it had a warranty deed, we can certainly feel clear and good about that. So we love to see warranty deeds when we're doing that research. But you know, we also need to check things like making sure that you know, making sure that there wasn't some kind of transaction in there. If we don't see deed, we need to make sure there wasn't an additional transaction that's not recorded.
Yeah, well, and like Shade had mentioned earlier, we're going to be looking there to see when was the last warranty deed, and if it's sold several times, then we're going to need to research more than one owner. We're going to go back and research, in that case, both Arthur and Cynthia, or whatever her name was.
Yeah.
You know, and make sure that both of them don't have any types of liens or judgments that could be connected to the property.
Yeah, in other words, if a lien was issued by the county, the way that it would be issued is it would be issued against the individual owner, you know, of the property there at the time, and then listed in the, you know, listed in it would be, you know, the property address itself.
Yeah, and that's kind of really what step 4 is when we're establishing the chain of title. Is we're going to look at the most recent deed, and if it's a warranty deed, then many times we can, you know, we don't need to keep going back and researching all of the other previous owners. If it's not, then we're going to need to keep researching back until we get a warranty deed. So let's say that we look at a property and it's sold in 2010 with a warranty deed. But we can see over then it sold, you know, 3 times in 2 years. And you can see some quick claim deeds and some different things like that, you know, through that process. And we're going to go back and research every one of those 3 owners, if they're companies, whatever it is, and make sure that there's nothing attached through all 3 owners that may stick to the property. Because by doing a quick claim deed, you are essentially doing it as is. So if they did do a quick claim deed to that other owner, and there was something like a nuisance lien, then it would pass on to the new owner.
Really, it's one of the reasons why warranty deeds kind of are what they are. You know, it's with the warranty deed, you know that there was nothing like that that's been added to the property since then. You know, it's basically the guarantee that you know, that there's no encumbrances that are still there. But part of what we can also do is we can check and establish a chain of title. And essentially what we're making sure of there is just that if we look at the property deeds, that we don't see names that we don't recognize, or a transaction that somehow wasn't recorded. You know, we want to be able to see on the deeds, you know, the grantor and the grantee. You know, we want to be able to see, you know, that those names are correct, and that, you know, we should be able to follow that ownership back from, you know, from each owner.
Yeah. You know, so once we've done that, really then we're going to search the court records. You know, that's going to, many times those court, we go back real quick, just remember the names. You know, it's going to be searched. It could be the recorder's office, the the clerk's office. Sometimes is, many times we use the official records, and we'll show you how to do that. In fact, we'll go look at some property here in a minute, and actually go through and search the property owner's last name.
So what we're looking for, legal records are just like property records in that, we need a record search tool in order to find what we're looking for. This is what a legal record search tool looks like for Lee County, but essentially it gives us the same thing. We can search under an individual's name, and we can limit results, depending on how many we're getting. So with somebody like with the Cynthia Wood, we type it in. It all depends on how many results we get as to how we're going to approach it. If we're only dealing with a limited number of results, like we pull up, Cynthia Wood, and if under that name we get a total of 4 results like this, it doesn't take us that long, to be able to look at these and to see what type of document it is, whether we're looking at something like a lien or not. Because some of these are nothing to worry about. In fact, the majority of these are nothing to worry about.
Yeah, well, and also as we're going through it, we don't need to look back at older records that are older than the date that the property was bought.
Yeah, the date of the last warranty.
Yeah, so if the property sold in 2000, was purchased in 2018, then we don't need to look at any 2017 or 16 information, and we can see kind of the date, the record date there, because that's so old, it's not going to apply to this property anyway. And as we're pulling up everything, it could pull up everything. In fact, I was joking with Shade earlier because right before the webinar, I was looking at one owner, and there was 4 or 5 different marriages starting from the 70s.
Marriage licenses.
Marriage licenses with different women starting from the 70s going all the way until 2010. So I just pulled up everything under the name, and it included everything, just to be safe, and went through and was able to look. But, it can pull up anything like that, marriage records, if we're going to do a full search. We can limit our searches, but sometimes we'll just pull up everything just to see, just to be on the safe side.
Yeah. So in this case, we're looking at the properties we can see here. We've got document types. We've got a mortgage, an agreement, a satisfaction, and a notice. So none of those are exactly listed like a lien would be. If we check.
Well, and that notice you can see comes from Lake County Clerk.
Mm-hmm.
So what that is that's the tax deed. There's a couple of there's the mortgage on it, there's the agreement of mortgage, and there's the satisfaction. Mm-hmm. Then we're also seeing the county. In fact, I'll bet if we look at these mortgages, they're on a different property than this piece of land.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They're on some
they're
home
on
or
a
something.
Home.
Yeah.
Right.
And so this is a different property. There's no liens against the property. There's nothing like that has been filed. We can pull up the notice of the tax deed application. We can see there Cynthia Woods, same person. And so this particular property, if we were to buy it, we're not going to be worried about governmental liens because nothing has been listed on this property.
Yeah, we know there are no government liens on this property.
Yeah.
We know that for certain, because
well, at least there shouldn't be,
Yeah, well, it would have to be listed under her name.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is, unless the county has made some mistake, but title companies are going to kind of do the same type of thing.
Yeah, we can be pretty certain.
And that's kind of what title insurance is if somehow the county didn't record that, they're going to, provide any insurance or cost in rectifying that.
Yeah.
But, really at this point, we've got a pretty good idea what this property is, and we could go ahead and bid on it accordingly.
So one of the questions is, what do you do if the names on the county tax records don't match the deed records? Do you have?
Well, that's really, yeah.
That's going to be a mess.
Yeah, I mean,
you're going to have to go and get it recorded, because it was obviously a transaction.
Well, it's not something you're going to have to do. I mean, it's something that's if you're just looking at an upcoming property and the information is.
Oh, yeah. If you haven't bought it yet for certain, then you just know that it's a property that has major title issues.
Yeah, and so, it's something you can look more into, it probably in this case would probably get a title search done if we were really that interested. But it's not something in most cases that you are going to come up with an issue, but as you can contact the county and go from there. But most of the time those kind of issues aren't something you're going to see because it usually will have been fixed through some type of the transaction.
Yeah. The reason why we look and check all this stuff is there are certain nightmares out there of these situations where people have bought properties without looking at ownership histories, and ownership histories have been crazy and make it really hard to get through that to get through all of the loopholes.
Yeah, and so as far as locating those court records is pretty easy. We can go to the county website, or we can just pull up a Google Doc. We'll show you how we do it here in a second. But really what we're looking for is any type of governmental liens. We're going to see judgments on there. We're going to see mortgages. We're going to see loans. None of that stuff in most states are ever going to be an issue. Really, it's going to be something like a governmental lien, and most likely it's going to be something like a city lien. Occasionally you can see state liens, but the most common one that we're going to see is some type of nuisance lien. Possibly utility lien if they do have like water or something like that in some areas. But the most common is going to be something like a grass cut nuisance lien.
Yeah, they're by far the most common type of lien that exists out there, and usually they're pretty easy to find, but only if the records are available. If the records aren't available, then we may need to have a title search performed. But one option is we can also call the city or the county departments directly to find out some of this information.
Well, especially if the city is located in, if it's located in county area, usually that's going to be more rural areas, so they're probably not sending enforcement people out there generally to cut liens. But in some place like a city, that's where it's going to be more common. And we had a question earlier, about when what if I can't find the records online? Well, this could be an option, especially if we're purchasing property. Let's say we're buying a property that's a couple $1,000s, and it looks like everything's okay. So if we're looking at a building lot, and one was naturally landscaped and one had mowed, one looked like it had a lot of
grass.
Yeah, and it had been mowed. Well, the one that's naturally landscaped, we're going to it's going to be a lot more likely that doesn't have some type of governmental lien. But either way, we can contact the city and say, hey, I'm looking at buying a property there. I just want to make sure it doesn't have any nuisance liens, or there's no issues with the city on the property, and they can let us know. And if we do find liens on the property, then we're going to be contacting the city as well to find out if we can negotiate that lien amount. Sometimes it could be a couple $100 and it's worth buying the property anyway and paying off the lien. Sometimes there may be a larger lien, and that's where you can contact the city and see if you can negotiate that lien, get them to send it to you in writing, an email or something like that, that if you do buy the property, they'll reduce the lien. So maybe there's $1,000 lien and you agree to pay $250 if you buy the property.
Yeah, which is a lot easier to do once you know the amount, and you can basically calculate that for yourself as to whether it's a deal breaker or whether it's something that can be absorbed in the deal.
Yeah, so once we've gone through stage 1 through the first six steps of due diligence, we've gone through stage 2 by doing the investor title search. Then really the last thing that we're going to do, and this is really going to pertain to structured properties, is do some type of on-site evaluation.
Yeah, which is where we need to lay eyes on the property, to get an idea of current condition and other aspects of the property that we might not be able to do, outside of getting current images or having on-site evaluations performed on the property. But the more valuable the property is, the more important it is that we have this done, especially if it's improvements. We can't get around this. We just have to have current images of the property. Otherwise, we're just shooting in the dark.
Yeah, exactly. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and go online real quick. We'll go to the website and we'll look at an upcoming auction and do a couple of record searches. So what we're going to do is we're going to go make it easy for us. We're going to go to the online auctions and we'll click on online tax deeds. And we're going to go to a great state for records as part of the reason, one of the many reasons that there's competition. And let's go to Palm Beach. And we could probably do this same process, not probably, we could do it almost every single county. It's going to be a lot of the same process. So we're going to click on the auction calendar. We can see that they have an auction coming up on what, the 14th?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and click on that. Now what we're also going to do is we're going to open up a new window, just a Google search window, and we're going to put in Palm Beach County, Florida official record search, or something similar to that. It could be court records, it could be recorder records, depending on which department or which office handles those still.
Recorder of deeds.
Just put in official records. Official records is really kind of the one that's used all throughout Florida a lot.
There we go.
Go back real quick. This is actually where you need to be, but I kind of want to show something. Click on that one, maybe third one down, or yeah, I guess that one.
This one?
Yeah. I'm not sure which one. Oh, sorry, go back one more. Go to the second one down. Which one to show is, see here? Well, what I was looking at earlier, it had a place where you can search the deeds and the recorder records. But here we can go down to the bottom and search, or we can search by name. Search all documents. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start looking through.
Oh, that's weird. Just jumped on me or did something.
Just click on the name up at the top.
There we
We
go.
can search that way too. Let's go back and let's go to the online auction. We'll start looking at a couple of the properties. So we mentioned the first thing we're going to do is look at the assessor information anyway. So we could probably look at some of these properties.
Just pull one of these.
Yeah. It's not one that I researched, but it won't hurt anyway because I can't remember which one it was anyway. So here we can see some of the basic information on the property. We have the location address, sell date, and then down there we have the owner's information, which looks like it's Louis J. Reyes. We can also see down there below that where it's sold back in June 2017 for $150,000. We can also see that it was issued with a warranty deed, and then click on that book and page number and see if we can pull up the deed. I think it might flip from here.
Yeah, here we can see the warranty deed here.
So here we want to make sure that the information is correct. We can see that M&M Properties of Bill Glade and Company to the grantor, Louis J. Reyes and Company, the Florida Corporation. So from here, what we can see, everything looks to be correct. We can look down and see if there's anything else additional in this property, which it doesn't look like it has any addendums or anything like that. Pretty straightforward.
One page.
So everything looks okay right here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to search that Louis J. I think it's that third one over. Just right here.
Let's see here. So I don't see any of that. Let's try Louis.
Click on that oldest real quick. And then click on today. I was having, no, sorry. Click oldest and then today right below it. And then click submit now. Yeah, try without the name. I was having an issue earlier today and I clicked on that other thing and it was pulled it up, everything easy.
Let's try this. Let's try.
I had a problem with finding his name earlier. It's supposed to be able to do it both ways because it's underneath that starts with contains. Well, let's look underneath a different name anyway.
They did come up. They were just taking a minute here. Okay, so the first thing we would have to do here is actually find Louis, Reyes Inc. Because
So we might try it again though underneath.
how I have it.
Yeah, and so it contains, you know, instead of,
Give it a second here. If I have to, I'll take off the ink again and just try it with the Lewis J and see if we can get it that way. I don't know if it's struggling or what.
let's look underneath a different one anyway.
Yeah,
Um,
like a different property, like.
yeah, there was a name, I'm trying to remember that one that had all the, that one's 15,000.
Andrew Lawrence.
Yeah, we can try that one. That one has,
Yeah, I don't know if this one is still frozen. I might have to get out of this one and open up the window.
I was having issues pulling up earlier, and then it started working, and I pulled up every single one of them. I don't know what the issue is right now. Or if it's just thinking.
My goodness, it's not pulling up anything right now. Let's see. Yeah, it's just like frozen up. Let me close it
Maybe they're
out.
having issues with it or something.
Yeah. Or our internet. No, internet seems to be working.
You can check sometimes by the partial IDs, you know, if it'll pull it up. Sometimes those won't. And you can check by page number as well, but that won't necessarily include sometimes every. Pinellas doesn't have any auctions come up. I looked at them too.
Let's see here. Somebody's got to have something we can use.
Well, let's go to Lee County.
All right, let's look at Lee County here. Okay, sale that they have coming up here on the 13th. These look like pieces of land, probably.
Let's just look one up. It doesn't matter if it's.
All right, let's see. So
It ticks me off. It wasn't pulling up because I looked up all those properties earlier.
Grants, Walter and Agnes Grants.
Keep picking on multiple people named ones.
Yeah, seriously, that's just gonna make it more of a pain here.
Well, you're gonna have to pull up the Lee County now too.
Yeah, let me get these things closed out. Okay. There we go.
You know, it might just be we've kind of had a little bit of internet issues tonight. Of course, it prevented us from getting on time. And so maybe that might be part of the issue.
Record search here.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Go down to the bottom. I always like that quick search better.
Okay. Let's just try that last name and see how many it gives us.
Yeah, you're probably gonna have to pull up both names.
It is. So that's the name we're looking for. That's that Fred, I think. Let's see, it's Walter and Agnes.
Just pull up Walter.
All right, let's try Walter here. So there's two of them here, and okay, we actually do have a lien here. Let's see.
This is the Board of Commissioners.
Number of pages.
Lot mowing lien.
So here's a grass cutting lien here on this property, and we can see here. So this was recorded, and this is a 2016 one, and so the amount of the lien will bear interest at a rate of 12% annually until paid.
Well, and this is something where, you know, you're going to contact, in this case, Lee County, and they know this is a county-owned property. And so, you know, we're essentially going to the tax sale, but we're going to try to work that out with them before buying it. Hey, I'm interested in buying this property. I see that it has a you know, a lien on it, and find out how much that is, because here that notice didn't show how much it is. And see how much it is, if it's worth buying, and if it's quite a bit, we're going to try to negotiate that down.
Let's see if I can find that Graham's property on here. You know, or the name, you know, Graham's name on here. This is page 1. Because you can see the lien amounts on it, you know.
Yeah, well.
Oh, right there. There it is right there. So it's a lien. So here we can also see the lien amount. So here's the property address, 227 Peerless Street. Is that the same? That's the same, 227 Peerless Street. And then we can see the amount right here, you know, the property described in that certain deed. And then you can see it's a $216 lien amount, and they've got the violation number.
Yeah, and so we'd take that information and would contact the county, because, you know, it's not a whole lot right now, but what does have me interested is that interest rate.
Look at that. Tarpon 4 got some liens.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, I don't know why, but we've been seeing that Tarpon 4 name ever since we started looking at tax sale properties. Tarpon 4 has been like one of the names on there.
Yeah, you know, so with this case, we'd figure it out. I think they were a huge tax sale buyer back in the day.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and go back to the list.
Back to.
Let's look at that notice, and I would imagine that this is probably going to be the tax deed application.
Yeah.
So for this particular property, now we do something else. We're also going to check the wife.
Yeah.
You know's name as well, and see if there's any additional things that we need to pull up. Let's go back there. What was it?
Agnes.
Yeah.
Grams.
And then CO. We'd probably do that CO too.
Dana.
Yeah. Let's try that. Try that one as well.
We'll try doing.
Well, one thing we haven't done is we haven't looked at the deed yet, but that's what we'd check and make sure that the owner's name match up to the deed like we did in the earlier property.
I don't think anything on the.
Very, I mean, you know, the deed application was in, well, that's where we could see for sure is looking at the deed and see if it includes both or if they added those after. Oh, they've owned this property since 1976.
Wow, that's an old deed. But I don't see the other person's name. They must, maybe, did they have it added later?
Yeah, it might have been like through, you know, this almost, I almost think that this was, maybe that was, I don't know. I'm not really worried about the Walter and the Graham. I almost wonder if that was like a daughter or something like that they put on after.
Yeah.
We're not talking about we're not talking about a home here, although I'm just talking about a building lot.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah.
Looks at what's interesting though, if you look at that, they bought in 1976. It looks like they were located in Israel.
Oh yeah, they were. Yeah, they were located in Israel. Agnes.
What I would almost think that was is they.
Oh, look at that. There's another lien.
Oh, it could be.
Is it the same one? Let's see.
It could be.
Yeah, it's the same one.
Yeah, they just had them both on there.
Yeah, it's the same one.
So with this particular property, we know what we're dealing with and we can deal with it. We're going to find out about that lien. We're going to call the Lee County. You know, we have the case number. We have, you know, the parcel number. We can find out about that. We can see if they're willing to negotiate. We can find out the current amount, and then we can make a decision. But other than that, you know, on this particular property, there's not a lot we need to be worried about. It really looks pretty clean. You know, there's one grass cut lien, which is something we need to find out about. But other than that, the only other thing is just the tax deed application.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting how they do this, you know, like when they just issue, you know, one lien and then they just add a bunch of names to it.
Yeah, well, it saves them time is what they're, you know,
Yeah.
they just have to issue one document and have all of the people on it versus each one of those people.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, but yeah, you would want to check that out though, because that lien, normally when you see a lien like that, when it gets paid off, you also see, you know, you see
Release or satisfaction.
Yeah, satisfaction of lien, and we don't see that here. So, you know, chances are that lien has never been satisfied.
Let's try looking at one more before we go. We'll look at one more name. You know, look at that one right below it there.
This one?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't.
So the Vanguardia
Yeah.
Familt Group. Is that a typo, you think?
I don't know. Let's try.
You think it's supposed to be the family group?
Yeah, we can look at the deed.
It's like a typo and they just went with it.
That's where looking at the deed, you know, is going to tell us.
2021, 65,000. There are 4 additional parcels with this document. They've been
Maybe
split.
after the transaction.
So somebody developed this, or they, you know, they basically decided to split it up. Prepared without title examination, legal services limited solely to the preparation of this instrument, quitclaim deed.
Yeah.
So the most recent transaction for 65,000 was with a quitclaim deed.
It looks like there's several different properties on there.
Yeah.
Parcel ID, parcel ID.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a property split.
What is that?
It's a Spanish form. I know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's.
I think so, at least.
Oh, it's the form they have to get filled out by the notary.
Yeah.
So it's just like the notarized the Spanish version of it here. Interesting. All right, let me try to pull up a search here under that.
But what that does mean is that we would not only search this name, we would go back and search until we got to a warranty deed.
It is the family group.
Yeah.
But they also say family group right below that. That's weird. All right, let's see. We do have some notices though, but that's all we have listed here.
Lee County. Look, it might be because this is, you know, this could be a lien. No, it's the deed.
No, this is the deed application. Notice of the deed application. 2015 year certificate. How many times has this property been foreclosed on? Notice of deed application 15. Is that the same one?
Yeah, I think it's just pulling up double record.
Is this one from 15 too? Yeah, so they're all 3 of those are basically the same record.
So there's, you know, not a lot underneath this particular name. What we'd do then is go back to the property and, you know, no, keep going down underneath the cells. And then we see with the last cell, 2005. Looks like it's actually been split a lot. Looks like it's developed
too.
A lot of developing.
Yeah.
Look at the online map of the property. So it didn't look like it was, you know, tax map viewer, get the full map. They must have split this.
Yeah.
You know, just recently. Maybe it was several different lots. Really, it's not a bad lot though. There's 2 homes on either side.
Yeah.
But that, that hopefully that gives you guys an idea of kind of the process that we're going to go through and to research these records. It's really kind of the same process you're going to do in any county. They may not look exactly like this, but it's going to be kind of the same thing. We're going to go to that search tool. We're going to use the property owner's name, pull up the records, and then look through those records and evaluate what they are.
Yeah, but really though, if you get good at doing this, if the records are available, there's no reason why you can't find liens that are attached to properties and feel pretty good about, your investment decisions without getting a professional title search done.
Yeah.
You can get down to where you're pretty confident there's not going to be liens against the property. Certainly, if you can't find any liens listed under the owner's names, then they're not going to be there most likely.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Thanks for joining us here for this call, and be sure to catch us again here next week.
Yeah. Thanks again, everyone.
We'll see you later.